We're back. Hello, welcome to Tinkle Sports Talk. We've been pretty active in the last week, haven't we? If you've checked out our social media pages, we're pretty active over there now on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yeah, we're trying to put up some snippets of our shows.
Hey, that does not
so
mean
you can get so then you can get a feel.
Okay. Hey, this does not mean take the cliff notes and run with it, okay? This means sit here, watch our whole damn show, and like it. No, just kidding. Alright. But no, you got the cliff notes of what we said on Instagram and Facebook from two of our big stories this last week. We're going to hope to continue doing that. This week's a heavy news week, by the way. Very heavy news week. Of course, the start of the Olympics. We've got, but coming up on the show, of course, we've got your NBA news. We got a new champion, which we're going to talk about. We got some big NFL news this week. The NHL expansion draft, we're also going to talk about. Some conference changes coming in college sports, not just basketball, but sports in general. Some MLB news, and of course, we wrap things up with Tinkle on this. That's all coming your way. Well, let's start with the NBA, though.
This was like a curveball out of the park, if I ever saw one. But it definitely wasn't the team that we were expecting or wanted to win. Well, your NBA champions are the Milwaukee Bucks. First time in 50 years that they won a championship. And also the first time since 2006 that a team that was down 2 games went on to win the next 4. And you want to know those 2 teams? The Dallas Mavericks and the Miami Heat.
Yep. Classics right there.
The very big question that I have here, which I'm sure could get answered anyway, are they primed to repeat? Or do you think that there's another super team out there that'll take them out?
They're going to lose a lot of superstars this offseason. I think they're going to lose quite a bit of help. But I think the Bucks, they're in the East. Let's face it. I just don't know if I trust any East team to repeat right now because no one's really there. But I will say, off topic, that I think what Giannis said about the super teams was great because you know what? He showed in that game he doesn't need a super team to win a championship, and he defied everything. Now look, I'm not happy that Chris Paul lost this because let's face it, that loss now puts Chris Paul in the same category as John Stockton. Okay.
I know.
But obviously he's still got time to win rings, and who knows? He might go down as the greatest to never win one, but unfortunately for him, he's going to go down as John Stockton right now until he wins a ring.
I know. I mean, I think that the Suns can definitely be in the discussion again next year, but with teams like the Lakers that could probably be in the fold again, depending on what happens with Damian Lillard and the Warriors and stuff like that, you don't know who could end up being one of the teams out of the West or even the East. I want to say the Bucks are the team to beat out of the East until they're beaten.
Hey,
so I do see the Bucks. I do see the Bucks possibly being in the NBA Finals next year. If I was to make a super early prediction, I'm saying Lakers and Bucks probably next year.
I can see it.
If not Suns and Bucks again.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can I also point out that Kobe called it? Okay,
yeah,
not sure if you saw that. Kobe Bryant
said
see that. Years ago, he's gonna be an MVP someday. Giannis wins an MVP. Then he calls NBA Finals and an NBA champion in the future. Called it. Okay? Rest in peace, Kobe, but man, you nailed this one on the head. And I'm going to tell you another thing. What those analysts have said about Giannis being modern day Scottie Pippen, they were so wrong. They were so beyond wrong because he flat out carried his team through this championship. Okay, so to those who are saying that he is Scottie Pippen,
How you feeling now?
yep. In other words, zip your lips at that.
No, what I was gonna say about the whole like super team comment, it just shows that like if you're patient and loyal enough to a certain team, good things usually typically happen. And that's exactly what Giannis did. He stayed loyal to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks are like, all right, let's give you a contract extension.
Yeah.
So he got that contract extension. He's there for say 4 or 5 more years. Um, what else? He got a great supporting cast around him. Bobby Portis actually was one of the ones that came right out and told Giannis and the Bucks, "Hey, I'm available. Come and get me. I can help you guys win a championship." What did he do? They went after Bobby Portis, and look what happened. They won a championship. So I tell you what, if you get the right kind of people around you, I mean, they traded for PJ Tucker halfway through the season. He did great things for them. Same thing with Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday was a great point guard for them. So now, if you're a player like Luka and you see Giannis being loyal, do you look at that and be like, hey, if I maybe stay patient and stay with a team, maybe I could end up having the same kind of luck? Because there was an article I saw, loyalty, it worked for Giannis, it worked for Dirk, kid, it worked for Luka. And I say yes, it can. He just has to be patient.
But obviously that's the key question. Will he remain patient? Because let's face it, he's taken a few first-round exits. At least Dirk has gotten closer in his younger years. I mean, keep in mind the Miami Heat 2006 finals matchup. You know, he got there. Luka hasn't even gotten past the first round yet. Okay, I think if, you know, and here's the thing, let's not kid ourselves here. Okay, this younger generation way more impatient than the last generation of NBA players. I mean, like, they are not willing to settle for anything, and that's great for competitiveness, but it is not great in terms of loyalty.
Right.
You know, and of course we'll talk about you know, that I'm sure a lot more in the future, but
probably.
Hey, yeah, like I said,
Now,
it's a matter of patience.
yes, there is. Interesting name that has been coming into the realms. I kind of figured this was probably going to happen. Fortunately, though, just with him possibly being on a lot of teams' radars, doesn't look very good for the Raptors, as the Raptors are probably going to rebuild into this offseason. But Kyle Lowry is actually on the radar for many teams. The 35 years old, I think he's the same age as DeMar DeRozan. I think him and DeMar DeRozan are both free agents heading into this offseason. But Kyle Lowry, apparently the Pelicans are one of the teams that are on his radar.
I'm shocked
But
about
when
that.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm not. Apparently Lonzo Ball is supposed to be gone, so they're going to be looking for a point guard.
Wonder what deal
Now,
Dad's gonna strike for him.
probably the Knicks. I think that's where his dad, LeVar Ball. If anybody knows about him, and when Lonzo was with the Lakers, you know that he's very involved with Lonzo's life, which is weird because he's a lot more further with Lonzo's life than he is with his son LaMelo, who is with the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't go for the Pelicans, who do you think is a front runner for Kyle Lowry?
I've
Who
heard.
do you think needs a veteran point guard in the NBA right now?
See, well, as a Heat fan, I'm going to say the Miami Heat. I mean, Goran is past prime. He's not what he used to be. I
Hmm.
mean, and I know they've been linked to a lot of big free agents. They got cap space this offseason, so they can really go after a superstar here. However, I mean, I wouldn't rule out the Spurs taking a run at him. I think they need a new veteran presence over there. Obviously,
Hmm.
they need kind of a change of scenery in a way. Um, to be honest, it's kind of hard because I just can't think of any teams off the top of my head that need a point guard, but obviously I could see teams that would reach to get Lowry even though they have a solid point guard.
I don't think a lot of teams like to go after a veteran or take a chance on a veteran. Of course, a
Yeah.
team like hold on, a team like the Phoenix Suns took a chance on Chris Paul,
Hmm.
and he's a veteran point guard. But not a lot of teams really want to go
See,
after a guy like Kyle Lowry,
but
who,
this is going to
as
be
of
the
late,
year
ever
for that.
since winning the championship, really hasn't been the same kind of
Hmm.
player. So I don't know.
This is This is going to be the year for that, by the way, because I believe Chris Paul's a free agent, Russell Westbrook's a free agent, Kyle Lowry's a free agent,
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan's a free agent
DeMar
too.
DeRozan. So there's 4 quality point guards. So if any team's looking for a point guard, this is your year to do
So
it.
if there's a time to go after a point guard, it's definitely now.
Yeah. And who knows? Well, obviously I think Chris Paul will definitely sit on it and think about what he wants to do next. I'm hoping it's stay in Phoenix and keep building toward what they built toward this year. Because I think, what he's done in his time there, he's proven that he can put this team in a position to win a championship. I mean, I would hate to see him leave and that team lose all that progress because, again, they've deserved to be there so many times. They've deserved to win a championship. It never got done with Steve Nash, and it
I
would be
know.
nice to see it happen, even if it is with Chris Paul.
It just sucks that even the two times that they have gone to the finals, they don't have a really good track record. They're 0-2 in
Mm,
the finals. Of course, you got a guy like Michael Jordan, and you have a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo that plagued them both
yeah,
times. It just sucks that there's always been two great players in the East that have plagued them from winning championships. I'm saying that their time is going to
mm,
come. Chris Paul, like we've been saying, I think this is going to be our motto for this episode.
yeah,
Patience. I know you want
exactly.
to win a ring, and I know the best years of your career are way past you now. Like you don't really have many years forward because you're up
Yeah,
there. But you gotta stay patient and you gotta stay hungry. And I think I would love to see them fight and compete, and they know what they had to do to fight to get to the finals. Just you gotta do what you did this year. Yes, I know a team like the
yeah,
Lakers, a team like the Clippers, if they keep Kawhi and Paul
yeah.
George
Oh,
together,
he's a free agent too.
are
That's gonna
gonna be in
be,
the. I, yeah, I know, and we've talked about that. I'm not gonna go too
but
dark into that,
yeah,
but we know what the Suns have to do. We know what a lot of teams are gonna have to do. But like we said, the trend is gonna be like I would say yes, the Thunder have Kemba Walker, but like a team like the Thunder could go after a guy like Kyle Lowry. Like there's
yeah,
a bunch of other teams that could use him. Like maybe the Cavaliers could use a veteran point guard. I mean, they have a
mm,
lot of young talent on that team. Kevin Love is, I think, the only veteran to my knowledge that's
yeah,
still on that team. Um, there's a lot of other teams that weren't really that good that could use a veteran
yeah.
presence. So I think this is
See,
the year to take that challenge. Um,
this is a year that
as
could
far as
change the
that,
landscape of the
we've had a
NBA.
lot of. I was about to say we've had a lot of talk about this one, Brian, but
Hmm.
something that you're not so proud about is making a return for next season.
Can you tell my reaction already? Oh, man.
Yeah, it doesn't look very promising at all.
Yeah. I just
The
got no
stupid,
words.
the, I know. The stupid play-in tournament is back, everybody. Which basically means the ninth and 10th seeds of both conferences, depending on
Yeah.
who it is, the teams that don't very well fight very hard during the season will still get a chance to make it into the playoffs. Oh, man. Oh, man.
This is a joke. It's... there's a reason that the first four works in NCAA. Because there are teams in the lower conferences, there are teams that are in the bigger conferences that should be considered for the tournament that may not have been good enough to make the field of 64. Okay. There's a reason, though, why NBA teams aren't in the 7th or 8th slots. Okay?
Right.
There's a big difference there. Okay? You play each team at minimum twice a year. Okay? And I assume we're going back to the 82 game schedule next year.
I'm pretty sure we are, yes.
So again, with the 82 game schedule, you're playing each team twice. Okay, in college basketball, there's 310 something teams. You're not playing every single team once. Okay, you're playing maybe 14 out of division games or out of conference games, and then the rest are in conference. Okay, that's a tough way to gauge if you deserve to be in the field of 64. The NBA, if you can't make the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed, then after playing each team at minimum twice, then you don't deserve to be there. I'm sorry, this is a participation trophy at its finest, and, I think it's a joke. It seems like they're more going for the entertainment factor than they are for the teams that actually deserve to be there. And again, I go back to what I said a few months ago here, where I said that whoever's in the East, if you're the 9th or the 10th seed, you got bigger problems than making the playoffs. So, I'm going to reiterate that here, but obviously that's my thoughts on that.
And I don't mind it. I think I guess a lot of teams deserve it. But if you do I don't know, a half-assed job of basically getting into the 9th and 10th spot. Say I don't know, you have more losses than wins, and then you're somehow the 9th or 10th seed.
Yeah.
I don't think you should even get any sort of right to get into the NBA playoffs. You should be missing the playoffs and then decide, oh, what do we have to do to get into, 1 through 8 next year? Not, okay, let's get into the 9th or 10th spot and then go from there. No, that's just not right. And then also, it's just not fair to the other teams that have fought very hard all season to get a playoff spot, because then they're working harder to be the 8 through 1, and then you become the 9th and 10th spot. What say if those teams that are 9th and 10th kick out the 7th and 8th seeds? The teams that have fought even harder to get those spots, now they're like, oh well, now we're missing playoffs and now we're out to a team that didn't even do that well during the season, and that's just not fair, I don't think, at all.
Yeah, but that's again where I say you play each team twice, at minimum, compared to college basketball, where the first four makes 100% sense for these smaller teams that don't really get the exposure, that don't really get to play big teams, but have somehow earned their way there. Okay. I don't know. I have a big problem with it. But I will say there is, if I'm going to take one positive from this, and there is one positive, is that it kind of, in a way, eliminates tanking. Because let's face it, if you're 12 or 13 and you're still within reach of 10th or ninth, you're not going to be like mid-season right at the trade deadline. We got a tank. We're done. You're going to be like, I still have a chance at the 10 spot. You know, what do we go for here?
If you think about it, it does bode well for the
be
teams
honest.
that are not doing so well to fight harder for those spots.
Yeah.
I will say that, but for the teams that already are part
Yeah.
of the playoff, teams, that's just not fair to
But see-
them because they fought harder. Now, for the teams that are not currently in there, from like 9th through 13th or 14th or whatever, how many is in each conference, then that's like, okay, now there's
Yeah.
a little bit more that you have to do. I think it's actually 15 seeds for each conference because there's 30 teams in the
Yeah.
NBA. But I guess it means that yes, they had to fight harder to get into that window to be able to fight for the play-in tournament. So I guess
Yeah.
it motivates them, but it just means like, okay, you can motivate them to get into that spot, but then what does it mean for the other 8 teams that are already in there? Did they just not fight as hard? Like, did they just like, okay, we're already in there, so we don't have to do as much? Like,
Yeah.
I think that should motivate them even more.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, because if you're 6 through 1, you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about the play-in. If you're 7 through 10, then you have to. So
Yeah.
I guess it should motivate teams more to get into the 6 through the 1 spots. So I do say it'll motivate teams a lot more, but I
Yeah.
just don't think it should be even in play at all.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it has it has a few positives, but again, there's just so much negative I think that can be taken from this, and
Yeah.
that's my issue with it at the end of the day. And again, but right when I said tanking as well, I just realized again, look, we also have the NBA draft lottery to eliminate tanking. Okay, it's not like baseball or football where we don't have. Okay, baseball and football don't have a lottery. Okay, you can't really tank to get the number 1 pick, because obviously if it's blatant and obvious that you're tanking, they're probably not going to give you the first pick in the draft. Okay, I think that's a fair assumption, because they're going to be like, well, you really didn't even try all year. I mean, it's happened before. There are teams that tanked and lost like 27 straight that didn't even get the number 1 pick out of it. So,
Right.
again, you're battling for the basement, and it's not necessarily the basement. But I don't know. Again, I just don't think this is a great idea. This is a great show for bad ideas. Not based on what we're doing. Can I move forward here with this next story now?
Yeah, go
All
right
right,
ahead.
let's do it. All right. So NFL has announced that all teams that if players are not vaccinated and they catch COVID and it causes an outbreak, that they will not be rescheduling games. Instead, it will go down as a forfeit of the game. And of course, it's got players like DeAndre Hopkins, Cole Beasley, all wound up.
Yeah.
I believe Hopkins announced he would retire possibly if that rule stands. Derek Anderson, the former NFL quarterback, came out and said, if I had to play under these rules, I would have retired early. We know that... Let's face it, we're not going to talk about why the vaccine is good or not, because we're not here for the political side. If you choose to get the vaccine, that's your choice. Obviously, we chose to do it. But you guys might not want to, or may not feel that you need it, or maybe can't get it for medical reasons. And that's your choice. But I guess, is the NFL in the right or wrong by making this the rule?
Now, I know that they are going to say if a team cannot reschedule within like the 18-week process. So like say if they had to reschedule like a Sunday game to like a Tuesday and can't because, you know, there's so many people that are catching it or they haven't, decided to like quarantine the player ahead of time or there's more people, then they have to forfeit. Um, it's tough to say if they're in the right or wrong. I think it's might be say a right thing to do if there is a COVID outbreak to, say, well, you got way too many players that are dealing with it. You
Yeah.
kind of have to forfeit so then nobody else can catch it. That might be right. The wrong thing might be, well, you're basically telling these players, well, because of you not getting fully vaccinated, it's going to really cost the team. That kind of
Hmm.
seems a little wrong itself. It's definitely, players' choice.
Hmm.
All I can suggest is maybe the fully vaccinated, or or maybe all players should just still have to wear masks regardless if they're fully vaccinated or not. So then they can just make sure that there isn't really an outbreak. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Uh, I
Um,
mean,
it, it's tough to tell what's gonna
it's
happen.
see when you
But I want to say they're probably in the right to have teams forfeit. And if that rolling was happening last year, I hate to say it, the Bills would have won 14 games, not 13. If all of us remember what happened with the Tennessee Titans and Bills
hmm.
game that happened last year.
But let's face it. Yeah, you're probably right, but let's face reality here. The NFL did a great job of getting all 200 and I believe 58 games in.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
it's
something like that. But they did a
something
great
like
job.
that.
Um, NFL fans still watch midweek games. Look, NFL fans are probably the most loyal fan base.
Hmm.
Um, I've mentioned on Out of Turn 4, racing fans are most loyal to sponsors. They're more likely to shop at a sponsor because it sponsors their favorite driver, or most likely to enjoy the product. Now, I know I'm getting off topic here, but NFL fans will watch an NFL game if it's on midweek. Okay?
Right.
And if anything, it worked out for everybody but NFL Sunday Ticket. It worked out for everybody but DirecTV, if we look at it. I mean, because the rescheduled games that were out of market games ended up being on the main network and on national television.
Yep.
Okay? So, to me, it sounds like, I don't want to say DirecTV had a hand in it, but I'm wondering if they did maybe. And I think, again, we go back to it. The NFL is somewhat in the right. They are somewhat in the right. But when you cross over into HIPAA and medical, you can't tell players, this is kind of a passive aggressive way of giving them an ultimatum, basically.
Yeah,
It seems very passive aggressive. Okay?
it does.
Um, that's where I think they're in the wrong.
Hmm.
I could sit here and say because I'm vaccinated, I could sit here and say everybody that's not vaccinated is selfish at this point. Okay, you made the choice that was the best decision for you, whether we agree or don't agree.
Right.
That's what these players are doing. And, you know, I think that's wrong also, but not only is it wrong to give players a passive aggressive message to get vaccinated, it's even more wrong to basically make teams forfeit and not to mention put that pressure on the players because now everyone in the locker room who's vaccinated, let's face it, if we were in a locker room, if we were in the Buffalo Bills locker room playing for the Bills and you are the reason for the outbreak because you are unvaccinated, everyone's going to look at you different. They're going to be like, this is your fault, you're selfish. And this is the kind of thing that can... I don't think it could fully divide a locker room, but it could definitely contribute to a divided locker room. And this is where teams...
Oh yeah, I agree.
This is just an added test to teams, and I just don't think that that's right to do. And that's where I say, well, I've thrown out three things. They're about 33% in the right and about 66% in the wrong if we just went on the three things I just discussed.
Yeah.
But again, you gotta imagine that DirecTV had a say in this.
Oh yeah, more so than not, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say this as my final topic. If we want to talk about anybody that's kind of in the wrong, how about the Minnesota Vikings that just fired their one coach there, Mike Dennison, for not being fully vaccinated? They just literally
You should be able to
said,
sue
"You're
the
done."
team for that.
I agree. That's
Look,
that's wrong
That's a
for a
HIPAA.
team to do.
That's a HIPAA violation right there, I believe.
I don't think. I hope this is not going to be a start of things. I hope teams are not going to start releasing players or coaches because
They were told not to.
well,
Keep in mind, when I think the NFL had to backtrack it a few weeks ago when they said it was Brandon Beane's comments about I would release a player just to have the vaccination numbers to use the equipment in the training rooms full time. And I believe the NFL came out and said you can't do that. So I bet you that the Vikings are going to get some sort of fine out of this because that's just not right.
and I honestly hope they do. But moving forward from that topic,
Yeah, kind of impromptu
Aaron Rodgers is in our discussion in our
He's been in everyone's
notes
discussion
again.
for the last few months. Whether he's the Jeopardy host or whether he's the angry football player ranting about the Green Bay Packers, he's just been that guy.
I know. I don't know what is going on with Rodgers in the situation, but he just declined a contract extension to make him the highest paid quarterback. Oh man, I don't know what the hell that means for his future. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think this means for his future in football?
I think
If not
we're
for
looking.
the Green Bay Packers.
I think we're looking a little too deep into this. Let's put it that way. I think everybody's looking a little too deep, and I think definitely, and I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying that the people in the media are sounding the alarm way too hard on this one. Because I think he wants to see if they're going to win something before he decides to take that extension. Not to mention, I think he's trying not to because look at what Tom Brady has done to win championships. He's never, ever been anywhere close to being the top paid NFL player. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And even if he was, he took pay cuts to make sure that he had a team around him. Okay? We don't see that with Patrick Mahomes. He's probably going to lose players in a few years. Okay, he's going to lose key weapons if he doesn't start taking pay cuts. And I mean not like a few million here and there. I mean like a massive pay cut.
I mean, he already lost Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, he lost Sammy Watkins. Okay, but look at Tom Brady. This is why, you can't get mad at this kind of super team because they all took pay cuts to help each other out, okay? I don't care what we say about super teams, but in the NFL, if you do that, you're a good team player, in my opinion. Okay, if you're in the NBA, it's kind of different because, the NBA is a smaller roster. You have a super team, you're going to run away with things. The NFL, if you have a super team, you have 53 guys and anyone could get hurt at any given moment.
Right.
And change the trajectory of everything.
Especially with a higher impact sport.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so much that could change the trajectory of everything. I think... I just wonder with Rodgers, is it because he doesn't want to sign a contract that'll basically eliminate him getting any help? Or is it that he's more in the wait-and-see process right now?
I think he's more in the wait-and-see process, especially since, I don't know if you just heard what happened with Devontae Adams, but his long-term contract talks have gone on wayside.
Mm-hmm.
Things for the Packers do not look very promising, very good. So it would not shock me if Rodgers and Devontae Adams see their way out of the Green Bay Packers and they just have to start basically
Yeah.
all over again.
If Devontae
Which,
Adams does, Rodgers will follow. That's my
I
thoughts on
definitely
that.
think so.
But
Probably not to the same team because I know Adams wants to go to the Raiders, but
mhm,
who knows? I
yeah.
mean, I guess we'll just have to wait
But
and see for this.
but we can put the final nail in the coffin on the Aaron Rodgers trade. It's not going to happen. Basically,
No.
if a trade happened while we're on break or within the next few weeks or by week 9 when the trade deadline is, I would be completely and utterly shocked because I just don't see it happening. Even Peyton Manning, on a side note, he's come out and said it's not going to happen. I don't think he's going to Denver like he wants to. So I think we can put an end to those trade discussions. Now, in a few years, he might get signed somewhere else. That's a possibility, unless the Packers really want to toy with him and tag him, which they could very well do.
I think that that's probably a possibility.
I mean, if you tag him as a 38 or 39-year-old quarterback, if you tag him, I'm sorry, that is the most pettiest thing you could do to a guy who's given it his all to the franchise. And frankly, if I was Rodgers, I'd be very upset.
And also a player that won you guys a championship back in 2011 too.
Not to mention has also broken some records. He's won a lot of MVPs. But you can't do that to a man who's devoted his life to your franchise, basically. Even when things were rough. But, I don't know. But with that, let's move on to the NHL side of things. Yes, we got NHL offseason news. So, of course, on Wednesday was the NHL expansion draft. Teams got to protect 9 players. There were a lot of big names on the board. Not many were taken. Of course, the one we knew was going to be taken was Yanni Gourde of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was claimed by Seattle. He is the new Kraken player. The Fleury brothers, one from Montreal, one from Anaheim, they are now Seattle Krakens. What's their nickname? Are we going to go with Crackheads as their nickname? I'm sorry. Yes. I had to get that joke out. They're the Crackheads. All right, I'm sorry. Terrible joke. Don't do crack. But Ben Bishop, the former Tampa Bay goalie, he was on the list of players that could be claimed, as well as Montreal's Carey Price and the Washington Capitals' Alexander Ovechkin. None of them were claimed. This is just shocking, honestly. I know Ovechkin's not been that good in recent years, but come on. Like, that's a big name. That's a big person you could have in the locker room.
He could have revitalized his career with a new franchise, too.
And he could have been that leader. They did get someone good, though, from Ottawa, so I can't complain too much.
Right.
I don't know. I'd have to give him about a C. I'd have to give him a B minus, I think, on that draft. I think they did okay. They got quite a few young goalies. It's, again, there's just 2 or 3 picks that kind of left me scratching my head. I mean, obviously Ben Bishop's not the goalie he used to be. But Carey Price, I mean, that was the biggest one. I'm shocked they didn't try to take him because Carey Price is the kind of guy you should be taking. But, I guess, what are your thoughts on the rest of this? I know you probably didn't watch it, but...
No. I think if the best available players are up there for the draft itself, you should try to go after them. I mean, I know you want to, have veterans and also young players to build around for the future. But if you're a team that's just coming into their first year because of the expansion itself. I think you try to go as much with, the greater players as you can. I mean, look at what the Vegas Golden Knights did. They loaded up very much and got into
Yeah,
um, the
Vegas
Stanley
nailed that
Cup
draft.
Finals. How come the Seattle Kraken didn't really nail the draft as well as they probably could have?
I
Did they
don't know.
just want to build more for the future, or did they want to be
Mhm.
like, well, we went with whoever we thought was going to be good. So then if we do want to, don't have the team to be able to win
Mhm.
now, at least we have the team to fight for, to move on for the future, which
I
isn't a bad idea for a team that just came into existence.
Mhm. I think they built more for long term than they did, or I think they built more for foundation than they did to win now. Where I think
Yeah.
Las Vegas went more win now than foundation. Obviously, Andre Fleury was the big foundation piece, but keep in mind, Marc-Andre Fleury back then, in a way, was like Carey Price. He was the top goalie that wasn't on the untouchable list. This is what, to me, I'm sorry, if I'm in that draft room, I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's a dead giveaway, okay? Carey Price has to come here. So, I don't know. I just shake my head
Shoot,
at
they could
some of
have
the
had
logic,
all three of those players.
but again, this is just an armchair analyst speaking, so my opinion doesn't matter that much in the eyes of
Nope.
an NHL GM. Nor does Jason's, but hey, that's
No, unless you're actually there and I
yeah,
and hired by the team, then that's when your decision matters.
it's
But
okay.
us just being at home analysts on a
Yeah,
podcast,
but
our only word of mouth matters,
yeah,
not whatever we think is right
yeah.
matters.
So, but hey, but here's the bright side. Even if they manage to finish last, I don't think they will. But even say they do, trust me, the Sabres are gonna be like, hold my beer while we finish in last. Come on, we know it's gonna be the
Right.
Sabres. Okay, sorry Sabres, but with that, let's take our first break, or anchor break rather. When we come back, we'll talk Texas, or we'll talk SEC's latest editions, possibly latest editions. Um, we'll talk some of the MLB news, and then of course we'll have Tinkle on this. That's all coming your way in just about a minute when we return from the anchor break. Welcome back. Here we go. Let's get right into things. So big news, big news. Of course, ESPN reported a rumor last week, or in the last week, that Texas and Oklahoma have reached out to the SEC about joining the conference and leaving the Big 12. Well, guess what? The rumor is true. It is likely that in the next few weeks, Texas and Oklahoma will have to join the SEC. And now keep this in mind, by the way, before I finish this. So, of course, it's going to cost Texas and Oklahoma $72 million to leave. Now, of course, they'll make it up in the SEC, but it's because the media rights deals with the Big 12 as to why they'll have to buy their way out. And, of course, that's because their contract ends in 2025. So,
Oh, oops.
yeah. So then also the ACC athletic director had announced shortly after that he actually tried to recruit Texas and Oklahoma for when their contracts expire. To create a 32 team conference that's essentially a super team or super conference. This may go down as the downfall of the Big 12, but Jason, what are your thoughts here?
It's insane that they want to break the contract so soon and then have to owe all that money. But it doesn't. Isn't Alabama in the SEC?
Yeah, they are.
Does not look very well for them going forward, having to deal with
I'm not
teams like
worried.
Texas and Oklahoma,
Oklahoma's the
who are
concern.
usually
Okay, once
not Texas on the other hand, definitely not, but Oklahoma, oh yeah.
Oklahoma will be a fringe top 25, or not Oklahoma. Texas will be that fringe top 25 team like they always are. And then you'll have Texas, that's or you'll have Oklahoma, that's just the team that's always up top in the conference or battling for the top. But also interesting in this, there's been no discussions with Texas A&M about returning to the SEC. They may be the odd team out to make room for these two. And
Maybe they could leave the SEC to go to the Big 12.
hey, they'll go back. I mean, that's a possibility. If this happens though, that means Baylor is the only real, like, other than West Virginia, Baylor and West Virginia are going to be legitimately the only two good Big 12 teams, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll double check it. But again, so Big 12, of course, let's eliminate the Oklahoma Sooners, of course. So now you've got Baylor in there. They're always a top team. You got the Kansas Jayhawks in basketball. That's a good team. So the basketball conference won't necessarily take a huge hit.
But definitely football will.
Yeah, Texas Tech has been that up-and-coming team lately. West Virginia's obviously still in the folds. But outside of that, you get rid of Oklahoma and Texas, there's still like three teams that still are fringe members. I don't know. This to me looks like it will be, and I put it in the Discord, mark my words, if this deal goes through, it will be the downfall of the Big 12, not as a conference, but as a Power 5 conference. So, but the SEC doesn't need more help. But yeah, so the other interesting thing here is that the ACC announced this week too, they want Notre Dame fully in the ACC. However, keep in mind, Notre Dame has been an independent for years. So they have a TV contract. They have an exclusive TV rights contract with NBC Sports. I'd assume, and this is for football, by the way, I would assume if they take the ACC deal, NBC will no longer be the home of Notre Dame football.
Yeah, most likely.
So either that, or is it possible that NBC could take the ACC network away? I mean, that's obviously a long way from happening, but
That's a good question. I guess we would have to wait and see.
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna
that
look
would
up
be
the
a very
deal.
that'd be a very interesting thing.
Yeah,
It
so,
would be, I guess, cool to see Notre Dame join an actual conference. They're usually good football-wise every year, so it'd be cool to see them in an actual power conference. But
I mean,
it's totally up to them if they want to or not.
see,
They don't absolutely have to. They can still be that independent team that.
see, it would be great from the standpoint of it. From the standpoint of they will be the biggest threat to Clemson year after year. They will be a thorn in Clemson's backside over the next few years. And it showed last season when they were a temporary member of the ACC just for scheduling purposes, because last season it was all conference only games. Okay, it would be good for that standpoint, but you can't take away what's great about the independence for Notre Dame is look at all the rivals they have. Okay, I mean, Navy Notre Dame is a big one every year. Um, you know, I just wonder what would happen to that, because it's kind of like Syracuse leaving the Big East, where
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse had the rivals of West Virginia in football, Georgetown in basketball. Georgetown was probably their biggest rivalry in any sport. I think it just takes away, and I wish these teams didn't do that, and I sure hope that Notre Dame puts an end to that discussion. Because again, the powerful don't need to become more powerful.
That's true.
Okay. But as far as Texas and Oklahoma being recruited by the ACC, this makes absolutely zero sense. Okay, they are both well outside of the Atlantic coast. Keep in mind they're Midwest teams essentially, and Southern teams. I mean, the SEC makes sense, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. This just becomes so screwy, but it's a shame because the Big 12 will now become a non-Power 5. It's going to be a Power 4 if this deal goes through. So, but let's move forward here. Big news out of Minnesota is that Nelson Cruz, keep in mind this deal was put together Thursday. Nelson Cruz will be dealt to the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for prospects. Keep in mind, I believe the Minnesota Twins are in the basement of the division. So, I guess that leads to the question, are they conceding too early in the season? Because, again, they're 17 and a half games out of first.
Yeah, it seems like they are. It seems like they're kind of giving up. Um, Kind of seems like they want to rebuild, maybe, and they're just kind of throwing away the season so then they could probably see how low they can go to get um the best draft picks heading
It's,
into next season. So I don't know.
you're never going to beat the Orioles, you're never going to beat the Pirates, and you're never going to beat the Diamondbacks in the tanking game. Okay? They are the kings. They are the kings of the tanking game. I don't know. See, this was just a throwaway. I know Nelson Cruz is in his 40s. He's probably a year or two away from retirement anyway. I guess it's good to see him go to a contender because now he has a chance at winning a World Series.
Right.
Which is great. He does deserve one. He absolutely does. But 41 and 56, you are 17 games out. I look at the rest of the wild cards. You could have probably... I mean, I don't want to say they could have still vied for a wild card, but I think it was too close to call. I don't think it was too early to tank, or to concede, but... looking at all the injuries they've had this year, it was probably in the best interest. So, they gave him the Jim Thome treatment. If you remember, the Twins had Jim Thome, and they tossed him away in his last season because they wanted him to go out and win a ring. So,
It seems like they're not willing to keep a player past like the last year of their deal, or past like if they're like well past their prime, they don't seem to keep them and be able to build around what they already have. So
yeah, well, what's going to be interesting now is what's going to happen to Byron Buxton and what's going to happen to Josh Donaldson. Keep in mind, we're recording on Friday. We are exactly a week away from the trade deadline and finding out who else is going to move. I know Barrios is linked to some trades. So, Yeah, we'll see what happens. I just, again, I think there's a lot to consider here. Here's one thing. I don't know if you saw this, Jason, but this is nuts. I actually almost put this as Tinkle on this, but then I watched it, and instead of Tinkle on this was more of a WTF moment. Mets versus Pirates. The ball was swung at. It bounced off off a Pirate player's leg, and it was a line drive, very, very short line drive. Didn't even make it to third base. Like, it made it maybe a third of the way there. One camera angle shows it was foul. Umpires ruled it fair, and immediately the managers came out and argued. The players were arguing. The manager got suspended for 2 games for the Mets. You know, I gotta ask you, that, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's gotta be fair or foul here.
It should have been foul. If it hits off of the player's, you said the player's leg?
It bounced off his leg, and then it, now keep in mind, if it goes into the foul, like, so you know the lines from home to third and home to first, if it goes,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
If it goes on the left side of that line, it's foul. Before, even if it does that before first base, if it's rolling and it does that before first or third base, that's foul. Okay? And I'm sorry, but that angle, for me, it was a foul ball. Okay? So, I don't know. I think it was unjustified that the Mets manager got a suspension. I just don't know what else to say. It kind of just was a giveaway for the Mets in the game and the series, nonetheless. The series was tied entering that game.
Right. That shouldn't have happened.
You know, here's the thing, and it might be off topic, it might not be, but officiating should not dictate the game. Okay? Officiating should never dictate the game. Let the game dictate the game. Let the officiating contribute. Obviously, officiate where it's possible, but don't let the officiating overbear what this game could or could not be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by ejecting the Mets manager, by ejecting any player that was involved in this, you took that option away. So, again, that's one thing that I'm not by any means an official. Obviously, we've officiated basketball games before, and we all know how that one went.
Yeah, I don't like to discuss
Let's not discuss that. But we've also been a part of games. We've played games where the officiating was dictating the result.
Mm-hmm.
This case is, here's the thing. Runs are hard to come by this year because it is a pitcher's year.
Right.
You allow 2 runs because you argued. Now, here's the thing. The Mets should have played it out. On the contrary, the Mets should have played it out and argued after the play was done. So, 2 wrongs didn't make a right here. At the end of the day.
No, not usually.
Yeah, now...
I mean, I guess depending if I saw the camera angle and then I saw where the ball was, I probably would have made my decision right then and there. But from what I'm hearing, it definitely should have been a foul, not fair. If anything, it should have been a walk, not a freaking run. It should have been a walk to a base, especially if it hits off of a player's leg.
By the way, correction, it was 3 runs that scored. Now keep in mind, 3 runs is a game changer. It's a game changer. I'm sending you the video, by the way. So if you got your phone there, you can see it. Might want to turn the volume down so we don't get copyrighted. But you can see how it, to me, I would find it as a foul ball. But, again, you know, as much as I want to say the referees screwed the Mets also screwed themselves, because regardless, if it's an active play, you don't stop and argue. Okay? You just don't stop and argue. Play it out, then discuss the issue. You know, that's my only concern there. You know, as Jason's watching that clip, but again, that's the reason why I didn't put it as Tinkle on this. It very well could have been Tinkle on this week and should have been, but when it's kind of a what the fuck moment.
That definitely should have been foul. I saw the ball was literally on the left-hand side of the foul line, so it really should have been foul.
Exactly. And here's the thing, like, you don't get a better camera angle than that. It was literally directed right at the line. You don't get much better than that.
And honestly, I think you're right. They probably should have waited until after the play already happened to see, like, to be the manager, like, I want a replay. I want a replay of that. You know, you guys should have to check that. Do an instant replay of that, because that was definitely not. That shouldn't have been a 3-run score. You should take those those 3 runs off, and you should replay it. And then, you know, that could have made a whole big difference in the game itself, too. But since you did it right when the freaking play was happening, but I think you deserve to get tossed.
But again,
say it.
Again, the Mets screwed themselves on this deal because they let that play get the best of them. Instead of finishing the play by getting those outs, they sat there and argued while live ball is just sitting there.
And letting runs happen, I know.
Again, 2 wrongs don't make a right there. But let's move forward. The biggest news this week, of course, we know that certain teams are undergoing name changes right now. The Washington football team, the Cleveland Baseball Club right now. I'm not going to say the Cleveland Indians, I'll say it, because of their kind of hurtful namesakes toward Native Americans. They are all undergoing name changes. The football team is going to announce their new name in 2022. But the Indians have wasted no time. They will be the Cleveland Guardians, effective in 2022. What's your thoughts here?
No, I got a good question for you. What's worse, the name of the team or that god-awful logo of theirs?
Oh, you're asking a Twins fan. Everything looks awful to me about Cleveland. As far as baseball goes.
That logo, oh my gosh. A baseball with the G's with a wing off of it? I don't know if I like that logo. I just can't see that on a helmet at all.
I can't.
You just deserve to get laughed at for that logo. The name, I'm okay with the name, but as far as the logo, you mean to tell me you couldn't have come up with a better logo than that? I mean, come on now.
I just got no words for that. It is, I mean, the logo, it's funny. I never really looked at the logo very closely, but more the name is kind of what's getting me right here. Of all the things you could have named the team, you choose the Guardians. Now, again, we know Washington is going to pick something that is not related to Native American culture. And the Cleveland Indians chose the Guardians. Now, yeah, I just wonder where this came from. This was like a shot out of left field.
You would think that they could have chosen a name that was like, what can they have called them? The Cleveland Rockers or something like that. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland.
Yeah,
you mean to tell me you couldn't call them the Cleveland Rockers or the Cleveland Rollers or something like that?
Yeah.
Could have been something better.
Yeah,
something that's
exactly.
natural. Like, you got the Cleveland Browns, the Cleveland Cavaliers, now the Cleveland Guardians? That makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see something tied into that. I mean, but I don't know. Again, there's just so many directions you could have gone, and I just, the Guardians, at that point, you might as well just name the team the Cleveland Baseball Club. Let's be fair. I would have rather seen that. I mean, but I guess they didn't want to follow in the steps of the Washington football team.
Now, I just want to know if they choose a name like that, what is Washington going to choose for a name? I'm just a little worried about that.
Well, like I said, they've ruled out Warriors. That, I think, was going to be the big one. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the coming months.
Yeah, but if they were to call Washington Warriors, they could have just kept a W as a logo, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they still probably could just for Washington as a whole.
Or it could be their secondary, logo.
Yeah, maybe they could do like the Washington Senators. That's a possibility, Washington Senators, because they are in D.C.
Yeah, but I know, but
the Washington.
No, actually, technically not. They're in Landover, Maryland.
Yeah, but still, they're technically a Washington team. So.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's get on to this Tinkle on this, and let's put it this way. Please don't get political because this had to be brought up, okay? So Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks, sorry, we're going to get copyrighted now. They visited the White House this week. Joe Biden invited them. Tom Brady spoke from the podium. And, of course, this is the first visit, by the way. First time Tom Brady has been to the White House in a long time.
Since 2005.
Yes, since the Bush administration. Now, of course, I believe it was because his mom was sick or something. There was family issues during that time and other obligations that prevented him from going. It's not because of the President of the United States at the time.
We won't talk about the 2019 of why he couldn't be there. I think that was
I think it was
more, but we're not going to go.
I think it was family issues there. But so Tom Brady, of course, brings his fancy sense of humor. Tom Brady's actually pretty funny. Now that you put the hatred aside, Tom Brady's a funny guy. Okay. But he said 40% of the country still doesn't believe we won. Mr. President, you know how that is, right? Of course, I'm referring to the big lie that has been going through the internet. I'm not going to comment on it. We move forward. He says, I missed one down and they called me Sleepy Tom. Again, a comparison.
I think I remember when he missed that one down.
Yeah.
He thought it was like third down when it was really
he thought it was
fourth down
fourth.
or something
No,
like
he thought
that.
it was fourth. And it was game over.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
So, of course, the Sleepy Tom comment referring to Sleepy Joe, which, of course, then President Trump tweeted about Joe Biden not being cognizant. Again, not going to comment on that. But here's what I will comment on. And here's what we will talk about. He challenged the White House interns to 11 versus 11 football and said, we would run up the score on you guys.
Yeah, no crap. You're a professional football player.
Yeah,
You're going up against
come
interns
on,
who
man.
probably have
Come
no
on,
sense
man.
of
Give them a chance.
football.
Give them a chance. Come on. They don't have much else to look forward to other than getting coffee for the president. Let them have a win. Oh, man. Come on.
Come on, you gotta throw it a game for them.
No, just at least let it be competitive. Let them get a 28-3 lead and then run away with it. Okay?
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. No, come on.
Yeah. Sorry, we
Actually,
had to go there.
Speaking of that, nothing's actually worse. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently there was a college football game where it was like Oregon and TCU.
Yeah.
Oregon was up 31-0. Then TCU took it to 3 overtimes and actually beat the team they were down 31-0.
That was circling the internet.
I'm sorry. That's just insane.
Yeah, that was years ago, but that was circulating the internet too. But, yeah, so of course, again, not going to comment on the political stuff, but I will say, here's the thing. So, of course, before I say what I'm going to say every week, but Tom Brady has a right to be cocky, okay? He has the rings and he has the records to show for it.
Yep.
Okay, he's got the rings and he's got the records to show for it. Peyton Manning has a right to be cocky. Okay, he has 2 rings. He's broken every record in passing, which is now broken by Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. Still, not to mention, his Hall of Fame vote only took 13 seconds, which is...
Actually, I think got passed by Tom Brady.
Yeah, and him too. But again, it took the voters 13 seconds to put Tom Brady in the Peyton Manning in the Hall of Fame. Okay, they've earned a right to run their mouths. And I'm going back to last week where I talked about Patrick Mahomes, where he doesn't have a right to run his mouth right now about anybody or anything regarding football right now.
Ooh, cool. You have fancy hardware, but look at you lost to the GOAT of football.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd throw that out there. But again, for that visit to the White House, sorry, tinkle on this, White House interns. Tinkle on this this week to Joe Biden and everyone, really. Sorry. We just had to go there, right?
Yes, we did.
But anyway, that's...
And tinkle on this, Tom Brady. How do you mess up your downs there, buddy?
Yeah.
You've been playing football for how many years?
Exactly.
21, you said? And you mess up that badly? Shame on you, bud.
Let me put it this way. Next show, I want to style like Bruce Arians as well. He was styling at the White House.
So you want to look and style and be super red?
That might work. I can just go sit in the sun all day. But anyway.
No, if you want to talk about anything, I don't know what was better. Him being super red or the big old giant ring he had on his finger.
Exactly. And he's deserved that ring, by the way. He's earned that ring. It's been a long time coming.
Look who he's coached. He's coached Peyton Manning. He coached Andrew Luck.
Big Ben.
Ben Roethlisberger. Carson Palmer when he was kind of sort of in his prime, out of his prime. Kind of rejuvenated his career in Arizona. And then he also coached Tom Brady. Like, come on now. You can't get any better than that, coaching all those great quarterbacks.
Exactly. But with that, we got to say thanks for watching. We're running a little over, actually. So, again, a reminder, we have our Fantasy Football League. The draft is now just under a month away. So, please join our Discord if you want info or the invite. We still need at least 5 more teams to get this thing off the ground. So again, if you're listening out there, or you're watching out there, please join the Discord so we can give you the info on all that.
We can't guarantee we'll go down lately, but you can give us a challenge.
Exactly. But then, of course, the other big announcement, Jason, you're going to be joining me on Tuesday. For the first time ever.
Oh, yeah.
So, of course, Out of Turn 4 is normally the Tuesday show here on Tinkle Sports and Entertainment. However, because there's only Formula One the next 2 weeks, we don't have enough content for a full 30-minute show. And therefore, and also with the Olympics going on, there's so much to cover that we just don't have time to cover here on Tinkle Sports Talk, or it would be a 2-hour show. So for that, we have dedicated a new show for the next 2 weeks. It's going to be all Olympics all the time. It's going to be called Tinkle Olympic Zone. Jason and I, working some overtime together, will be here. I wanted some company. I was miserable on Tuesdays being alone. So Jason's going to be here.
Hey.
It'll be Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, much like Out of Turn 4 is. It'll be this upcoming Tuesday, 2 days from now, and it will be the Tuesday after August 3rd at 5 p.m. Eastern. So you won't want to miss it.
Yeah, we'll talk all Olympics.
Yeah, rifle
Well,
shooting.
maybe not all
Rifle
Olympics, but
shooting.
we'll talk most Olympics.
Yeah, rifle shooting. Pew pew. Yeah, I think that's an Olympic
Well,
sport, by the way.
we'll talk about
Hmm.
running and basketball and soccer
Gymnastics.
and gymnastics and
Simone
how
Biles.
Simone Biles is literally the best Olympic that we
Yeah.
have.
Come on, Simone Biles. Let's see. How about this? Michael Phelps and Tony Hawk are going to be on the Olympic team for NBC. I think they made some good choices.
That's awesome.
Katie Ledecky, I'm sure we'll be talking about. She's probably going to break a ton of world records at the Olympics.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. So I know the winter games are usually snowboarding. Does that mean the summer games are usually skateboarding?
No, this is the first year skateboarding is going to be a sport. And we'll also have baseball to talk about. By the way, baseball is now an Olympic sport as well.
Oh yes, that's right. Softball as well too.
Softball as well. I'm excited, honestly. I didn't get a chance to watch the opening ceremonies this morning. They were live on NBC. They preempted the Today Show to show it.
Right. All I gotta say is I'm just ready. I am just waiting and ready to see football becoming an Olympic sport. I think it's gonna be happening in the next future, honestly.
And we're not a part of the Comcast family, but I'm going to say it. So, of course, if you want to watch the Olympics, check out the NBC family of networks. The main network, NBCSN, USA Network, CNBC, Olympic Channel, I believe they said, and Peacock. Yeah, it's over on the cock as well. That's the nickname. Listen. Before you start laughing, that's the nickname I heard the last few weeks. So,
gosh.
So with that, we want to say thanks for watching. We've gone on long enough, I think. So we'll be back on Tuesday on YouTube. Otherwise, we will see you next Sunday for another edition of Tinkle Sports Talk. Till then, guys, goodbye.